The power of composure in moments of conflict is one of the most underestimated strengths a person can possess, especially when they are in the public eye or in positions of leadership. Composure is not simply about remaining silent or withholding emotions. It is about mastering the art of self-control, channeling energy in a constructive way, and ensuring that one's message is not lost in the noise of heated confrontation. In the context of the incident between Kamala Harris and Jasmine Crockett, it was Jasmine's composure that turned the tide of the moment. Instead of reacting in kind or letting emotions take over, she responded with a calm presence that not only stunned the crowd, but also demonstrated the undeniable influence of poise. The power of composure lies in its ability to disarm, to neutralize hostility, and to redirect attention towards substance rather than chaos. When conflict arises, most people have a natural inclination to react impulsively. Anger begets anger, and raised voices usually invite more noise rather than resolution. In such circumstances, the person who chooses calmness automatically shifts the dynamic. By staying composed, they not only preserve their dignity, but also elevate their credibility. Composure becomes a silent strength, one that requires discipline and a deep understanding that shouting may gain attention momentarily, but it rarely earns respect. In fact, the ability to hold steady when under attack reveals resilience and clarity of thought, qualities that audiences, voters, or even colleagues quickly recognize and admire. The psychological effect of composure during conflict cannot be overstated. Human beings naturally mirror emotions. If one person shouts, others feel the impulse to raise their voices too. This is how arguments escalate. However, when one person maintains calmness in the face of chaos, it creates a stark contrast that is hard to ignore. The audience, whether physically present or watching through a screen, is drawn to the figure who refuses to be dragged into hostility. Their calmness becomes a magnet for attention because it stands out against the backdrop of conflict. This shift in focus often changes public perception of the situation entirely. Instead of seeing two people locked in a battle of egos, people see one person losing control while the other rises above it, and this difference influences who they perceive as the stronger leader. Composure also has an intellectual dimension. When people remain calm in the midst of conflict, they give themselves the mental space to think clearly. Anger clouds judgment, while composure allows for quick but rational decisions. This is why individuals who keep their emotions in check often deliver sharper, more impactful responses. Their words carry more weight because they're chosen deliberately rather than blurted out in frustration. In the case of Jasmine Crockett, her calm reply was not just powerful because of what she said, but because of how she said it. Her restraint framed her words with authority and conviction, ensuring they resonated more deeply with the audience than any loud retort ever could. Furthermore, composure in conflict is a demonstration of emotional intelligence. Leaders who can manage their own emotions, and even the emotions of those around them, show an awareness that extends beyond the immediate argument. They understand that conflict is not only about the people involved in the moment, but also about the observers who are forming judgments based on what they see. Every conflict in public life is also a performance, and the person who maintains composure communicates strength not only to their opponent, but to everyone watching. This is why composure often results in long-term credibility, because people remember calm responses far longer than they remember angry outbursts. It is also important to recognize that composure does not equal weakness. Many mistake calmness in the face of aggression as passivity or lack of strength, but in reality, it is a sign of supreme control. To shout back requires no effort, but to remain calm when provoked demands mastery of one's emotions. This mastery is a form of power that speaks volumes without needing volume. People who remain composed are not surrendering. They are asserting control over themselves and, by extension, over the conflict. In fact, calmness often places the aggressor in a more vulnerable position because their lack of control becomes evident to everyone witnessing the exchange. The power of composure is also rooted in its ability to set the tone for resolution. Conflict, especially in public forums, can easily spiral into spectacle rather than meaningful dialogue. But when one party stays composed, they subtly invite the other to return to reason. Their calmness acts as a stabilizing force, signaling that the conversation does not need to devolve into hostility. Even if the aggressor continues with anger, the composed individual stands as a reminder that there is another way to engage. Over time, this can de-escalate tension and create space for productive dialogue. Another aspect of composure in conflict is its lasting impression. Audiences often forget the exact words spoken in heated arguments, but they rarely forget how those involved carried themselves. The image of someone standing calm, unshaken, and dignified amid hostility leaves an enduring mark. It becomes a defining characteristic of their public identity. For Jasmine Crockett, her calm reply not only stunned the crowd in that moment, but will likely be remembered as a moment that showcased her strength as a leader. This is the kind of impression that shapes political narratives and influences public trust. The ability to remain composed in moments of conflict is not just useful in politics, but in every sphere of life. In workplaces, families, classrooms, and communities, conflicts are inevitable.
How people respond to them determines the outcomes and the relationships that follow. Composure allows individuals to listen better, to respond thoughtfully, and to avoid making situations worse. It encourages respect from others and prevents the escalation of minor disagreements into larger, more damaging disputes. By practicing composure, individuals learn to navigate challenges with grace, turning moments of potential chaos into opportunities to demonstrate character. The true power of composure lies in its quiet strength. It doesn't rely on volume or aggression but instead on stability, presence, and an inner confidence that is unshaken by external chaos. It is a reminder that in the heat of conflict, the loudest voice is not always the strongest one, and that sometimes the calmest presence carries the most enduring influence. Leadership through restraint and emotional control is a quality that separates great leaders from those who falter when tested. In the realm of politics, business, or personal life, conflict and pressure are unavoidable, yet the way one responds defines not just the outcome of a situation but also the perception of one's character. Restraint is not about silence or avoidance, it is about choosing deliberately how to act, what to say, and when to respond. Emotional control allows leaders to maintain focus on their goals and values without being derailed by provocation or hostility. When Vice President Kamala Harris raised her voice during an exchange with Jasmine Crockett, it was Crockett's ability to restrain herself and exercise emotional control that stood out. She showed that leadership is not measured by who can shout the loudest, but by who can remain steady in the storm, redirecting attention from conflict to substance. At the heart of leadership through restraint lies the ability to prioritize long-term impact over short-term satisfaction. Shouting back or reacting emotionally may feel gratifying in the moment, but it often undermines credibility and clouds judgment. Leaders who can hold back impulses demonstrate foresight. They recognize that every action is a message and every word contributes to a larger narrative about who they are and what they stand for. Restraint, therefore, is not weakness but wisdom, because it reflects an understanding that leadership is about influence, not dominance. Emotional control ensures that a leader's influence endures beyond a heated moment, resonating more deeply with those they seek to guide. Restraint also reflects discipline, a core element of leadership. Leaders who cannot control themselves are unlikely to inspire confidence in their ability to manage others or handle responsibility. When individuals are placed in high-stress situations, their true character is revealed. Those who display composure, patience, and measured responses are the ones who inspire trust. Emotional control becomes a stabilizing force, assuring others that even when circumstances are difficult, they can rely on their leader to remain grounded. This stability is essential in environments where uncertainty, conflict, and pressure are constant companions, because it reassures people that their leader will not make rash decisions that could harm them. A leader who practices restraint also demonstrates respect, both for themselves and for others. By not lowering themselves to the level of hostility, they preserve their dignity and avoid diminishing their credibility. At the same time, their calm demeanor acknowledges the humanity of their opponent, signaling that conflict does not require dehumanization. Respect through restraint helps to de-escalate tensions, keeping conflicts from spiraling out of control. This kind of leadership does not silence opposition but instead models a way of engagement that is constructive rather than destructive. In the exchange between Harris and Crockett, the latter's refusal to mirror anger communicated respect not only to Harris but also to the audience, showing that even in disagreement, civility can prevail. Emotional control also enhances a leader's effectiveness in communication. Words spoken in anger are often regretted, but words delivered with restraint carry greater impact. Leaders who manage their emotions are able to articulate their points clearly, ensuring their messages are understood rather than lost in heated tones. They avoid unnecessary escalation and instead use their words strategically to influence and persuade. This clarity is crucial in public settings where every moment is magnified, and where a single misstep can overshadow an entire argument. By remaining calm, leaders ensure that their ideas are judged on their merit rather than on the manner in which they are delivered. Another vital dimension of leadership through restraint is the ability to model behavior for others. Leaders set the tone for those around them, and their emotional control provides an example for followers, colleagues, or communities to emulate. When leaders show that restraint is possible even in the face of provocation, they teach others how to navigate conflict with maturity. This modeling effect strengthens teams, organizations, and movements, creating cultures where dialogue is valued over aggression and where respect is prioritized over hostility. Such environments are more likely to produce collaboration, creativity, and unity, because people feel safe to express themselves without fear of destructive conflict. Leadership through restraint is also a strategic tool. By holding back an immediate reaction, leaders gain time to observe, analyze, and choose their responses carefully. This gives them a tactical advantage over opponents who may be driven by impulse. Emotional control allows them to identify opportunities in conflict, turning what appears to be a disadvantage into a platform for demonstrating strength. In politics, where optics and perception are everything, this strategy often wins the audience approval, because people naturally gravitate toward those who appear to be in control rather than those who seem consumed by emotion. The calm leader becomes the voice of reason in an environment dominated by noise, and this distinction can shift public opinion dramatically. Restraint and emotional control also nurture resilience. Leaders who do not let themselves be overwhelmed by emotions are better equipped to handle setbacks and criticism. They do not collapse under pressure, nor do they lash out destructively when challenged. Instead, they process situations with patience and clarity, allowing them to recover quickly and continue pursuing their objectives. This resilience is critical in leadership roles, where challenges are inevitable and where the ability to persevere through adversity defines success. By maintaining control over their emotions, leaders conserve energy for the battles that truly matter rather than wasting it on reactive conflicts that yield no meaningful outcome. The practice of restraint also transforms how leaders are remembered. In history and in daily life, moments of emotional outburst are often fleeting, but moments of emotional control leave lasting impressions. People remember the leader who stayed calm when others lost control, who chose dignity over anger, and who inspired respect even in disagreement. These memories shape reputations and legacies, often becoming the defining traits of a leader's public image. By practicing restraint, leaders ensure that they are remembered for their wisdom and strength rather than their volatility. Ultimately, leadership through restraint and emotional control is about mastery of the self. Before a person can lead others effectively, they must first demonstrate control over their own impulses, emotions, and reactions. This mastery builds a foundation of credibility, trust, and respect that no amount of shouting or dominance can achieve. It is a reminder that true power does not come from overpowering others but from demonstrating control, clarity, and purpose even when challenged. How calmness can transform tension into respect is a truth often overlooked in the heat of conflict, yet it is one of the most profound tools for building credibility and influence. Calmness is not merely an absence of reaction, it is a deliberate choice to remain grounded, to prioritize clarity over chaos, and to elevate the dialogue rather than allowing it to spiral into hostility. In moments of tension, people expect confrontation to escalate, they expect anger to provoke more anger, but when someone responds with calmness instead, it disrupts those expectations. The shift is powerful because it reframes the interaction, taking it from an adversarial battle of wills to a demonstration of composure and strength. In the incident between Kamala Harris and Jasmine Crockett, it was precisely Crockett's calm response that stunned the audience. What could have been remembered as just another heated clash became memorable for the way her calm demeanor transformed the atmosphere, forcing respect even from those who may not have agreed with her position. Calmness changes the energy of a conflict because it has the power to de-escalate emotions. When tempers rise, words often become sharper, louder, and more harmful, feeding the cycle of confrontation. However, calmness interrupts that cycle. By choosing not to mirror anger, a calm response lowers the emotional temperature of the room. This shift does not just affect the individuals directly involved in the conflict but also everyone watching. The audience sees the stark difference between agitation and poise, and they instinctively admire the person who chooses composure. Respect grows in this moment because calmness reflects control, and control is a trait that people universally associate with strength. One of the reasons calmness is so transformative is because it communicates confidence. An angry outburst often signals insecurity or loss of control, while calmness signals assurance and stability. A leader who remains calm under pressure shows that they are not threatened by the conflict but rather capable of navigating it with clarity. This inspires respect not only from supporters but also from opponents, who may begrudgingly acknowledge the strength it takes to resist provocation. Calmness, therefore, becomes a way of commanding authority without force. It allows the individual to take control of the situation without ever raising their voice, proving that influence does not require aggression. Calmness also sharpens communication in ways that anger cannot. In a heated exchange, words are often drowned out by tone, but when someone speaks calmly, their words gain weight. Listeners are more likely to absorb and reflect on what is being said because the delivery is measured and thoughtful. This precision makes the message more impactful. In Jasmine Crockett's case, her calm reply resonated deeply not because of its volume but because it carried the weight of restraint and clarity. The crowd respected her not only for staying calm but for using her calmness as a tool to amplify the power of her words. Respect born out of calmness is also connected to dignity. In tense situations, those who allow themselves to lose control often appear smaller in the eyes of others, whereas those who remain calm appear elevated. They preserve their dignity by refusing to descend into hostility, and this act of self-preservation earns admiration. Audiences admire those who can stand tall in the face of adversity, who refuse to compromise their character for the sake of winning an argument. This is why calmness often transforms not only the immediate situation but also the lasting reputation of the individual involved. People remember the calm leader as someone worthy of respect, someone who reflects the values of integrity and composure that they themselves wish to embody. Calmness also creates space for listening, which is another way it transforms tension into respect. In heated arguments, people are often more concerned with being heard than with listening. But calmness allows one to pause, to actually hear the other side, and to respond thoughtfully. This ability to listen communicates respect, even in disagreement, and in turn invites respect from others. It signals that conflict does not have to mean chaos, and that different perspectives can coexist without devolving into hostility. By modeling this approach, calm individuals create an environment where dialogue is possible, where differences can be discussed without the destructive weight of anger. The transformation of tension into respect through calmness also has a ripple effect on bystanders. Conflict in public often becomes a performance, with audiences judging not only the arguments being made but also the demeanor of those making them. When one individual remains calm, they capture the respect of the audience because they embody qualities that others aspire to. Bystanders may not remember every detail of the argument, but they will remember the calmness that stood out amidst the noise. This memory shapes their perception of who truly held power in that moment, often tipping the balance of respect toward the calmer party. Another way calmness fosters respect is through its connection to fairness. Anger often creates an impression of bias, of being too emotionally invested to see clearly. Calmness, on the other hand, creates the impression of objectivity and balance. It suggests that the person is not consumed by personal ego but rather guided by reason and principle. This perception naturally earns respect because it reassures others that decisions and responses are not being driven by impulse but by careful consideration. In leadership especially, this perception of fairness is invaluable, because it builds trust and credibility in ways that aggression never can. Calmness in moments of tension also reveals emotional maturity. It shows that the individual has developed the ability to master their own impulses, to rise above provocation, and to act from a place of wisdom rather than reaction. Emotional maturity is a quality that people instinctively respect because it is rare and difficult to cultivate. It demonstrates growth, discipline, and self-awareness, all of which are essential traits in leaders. When Crockett responded calmly to Harris's raised voice, she demonstrated emotional maturity in a way that transcended the specifics of the argument. She showed that she understood the power of remaining steady and that this steadiness could command more respect than any sharp retort. Finally, calmness transforms tension into respect because it leaves an impression of strength that lingers long after the moment has passed. Anger often burns brightly but briefly, while calmness has a lasting impact. People reflect on it, they replay it in their minds, and they talk about it afterward. Calmness becomes a defining moment that reshapes how others view the individual. It signals resilience, confidence, dignity, and emotional control, all of which naturally elicit respect. In this way, calmness not only changes the tone of a single exchange but also contributes to the broader narrative of who someone is and how they are perceived in the long run.